Safer with Google in partnership with News18 Network.
Hello and welcome to this special presentation titled Safer with Google in partnership with News18 Network. I'm your host Gautam Srinivasan, and joining me in a conversation to bridge the gap between your understanding of internet security and privacy with the on-ground realities at play, whether it's search, email, payments or browsing, are a selection of experts and commentators. Let's meet them. Our lineup features Major Vineet Kumar, founder and global president of the Cyber Peace Foundation. Also with him is Advaita Kala, who's the author and screenwriter, prominent author and screenwriter at that. And of course, Puneet Bhasin, advocate and cyber law expert. So we're covering diverse perspectives for this issue. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for this talk. Now, considering India is among the top 5 countries in terms of victims of cyber crimes across the world, let's first understand the risks that users are currently being exposed to. So we'll come to you first, the potential risks of, say, social media and the internet that you see currently.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me here. And I'd just like to add, we are, I believe, the kind of cases that we are getting maximum number of cases as unreported cases. So I believe if we start counting that, we'll be probably number 1 country in terms of the increase in the number of cyber crimes. And this is not something that is not with other countries, but because we have more penetration of internet and we're reaching out to more and more internet connected users and more digitalization, that's why the surge in the number of cyber crimes. Now, some common kind of crimes that we see that's happening, number 1 is the financial frauds. And there are different kinds of financial fraud, but there are different kinds of scam that happens. There are OTP-based scams, there are email-based scams, there are matrimonial scams, there are different kinds of other kind of scams that happen. Financial fraud related to tower scam, which we have seen in the recent times, and also during COVID times, that has been surge in the number of crimes targeting common people, offering them work from home jobs. And some of these campaigns are quite advanced, that people and in fact criminals from the other countries are kind of creating these kind of campaigns, very sophisticated campaign aiming to target the netizens on the ground. And it's not just taking money out of their bank accounts, but it also to kind of spy on their devices and collect as much as information as they can.
Absolutely. There's a wide spectrum from organized to unorganized players in this sector. We'll explore all those trends that have been listed by Vineet in detail. But Puneet, coming to you, in your perspective, what are the root causes of cybercrime and the effects that they have on victim? Because on the one sense, one could be completely hapless. On the other sense, it could also be a user-initiated move. For example, piracy coming into play, right? You download, say, a video that you want to see, and then you become the victim of a cybercrime because some sort of an attack happens to you, whether it's a virus attacking you, whether it's a phishing scam, or so on and so forth. So your perspective on this?
See, well, depending on the nature of crime is the susceptibility of a victim. So I'll give you one example. If you see cryptocurrency frauds, there is an inherent human thought process that, maybe overnight I may make a lot of money. So that's something what cyber criminals prey on. So if somebody tells you, you invest 100 rupees and you're going to make $1 million. So, that kind of overnight money is one of the triggers in crimes like cryptocurrency frauds, which are highly on the rise. Despite the government condemning these kind of transactions, openly a lot of information being circulated about these scams. Even today, a large number of people are running cryptocurrency scams, and it's very, very organized. The second type of crimes which you see is online romantic scammers is what I call them. So despite there being so much of awareness that if you don't know somebody online, do not add them to your social media profiles. On matrimonial sites, dating sites, get to know a person before you really get involved to that extent. Despite all of this information being everywhere available, there are a large number of cases where you still see so many people falling victim to romance scammers in different age groups. So it's not just that, there's a common myth that only those who are above 40 are the ones who are falling prey to this, but a lot of young college students are also falling victims to this. And the amount of these cases getting reported is much lesser because of the embarrassment that people end up facing.
Absolutely.
You
And
see,
it's not gender specific as well, right?
it's not gender specific. So what tends to happen is when women are victims, to some extent, they still approach the police. When men become victims of online romance scams, I've seen there is a lot of reluctance to approach the police completely. So they always take a step back. It comes in the way of the male ego.
Absolutely. And you mentioned cryptocurrency frauds. What has also happened is that sometimes a celebrity's account gets hijacked, right? And then as a result of that, you see some sort of a cryptocurrency sort of a message being put there saying, hey, go and buy this. And because it comes from a validated account, people fall prey to it. Advaita, your response to the world that we live in where you can't really trust what your eyes see or what your ears hear?
Absolutely. I think increasingly we live more of our lives on online, be it shopping, be it finding friends, romantic partners, be it finding employment. There's so many aspects of our life that the internet has seeped into without us even realizing that this is what is happening to us. And for me personally, I think that's a little scary. When we talk about AI, Elon Musk has famously spoken about AI and really what it could be. We're creating a monster who tomorrow will basically control us. And you see it so often. You go on one site, and I'm sorry, I'm going to use very pedantic examples here because I'm not an expert. I'm somebody who's here purely as a user. But a lot of times, you find yourself, for example, shopping or looking for glasses. Suddenly, you've forgotten about it. 2 days later, you're on some other site and advertisements for glasses start coming up. So someone's obviously tracking your usage on the internet, which is very stalkerish and very creepy. Now, think about it. If in the real world, if you went shopping for glasses and some random guy who lived in your colony said, oh, I believe you're looking for glasses, you'd be like a little freaked out. Like, who are you? But the internet is doing this to us all the time.
And it also has brought into forefront this issue of data privacy and protection, and whereby now we are going away from a third-party cookie world to a first-party cookie world, which hopefully can mitigate some of those issues on identity, user identity, which you have mentioned, Advaita. But taking this conversation forward and bringing you back in, just take us through the modus operandi of online scamsters and how do they manipulate to extract personal data? Because I've noticed that the social engineering aspect of these scams has also become advanced enough. Earlier, it was more of a cold calling measure. These days, because it's a combination of a data leak happening, and I was just reading about incidents where somebody said, I wanted to book a hotel. The person on the other line said, you have to prepay it to my account. And they had, say, the exact details that of the user. So the user just trusted and thought that, okay, maybe this is the hotel owner, which is scary. So your experience is something, some of the modus operandis at work, which you can share with our viewers?
Yes, actually there are many, but I'll just stick to a few of the most reported ones, which we kind of get on our helpline. We run a helpline to assist victims of cybercrime. And one of them, the most popular, is basically the banking fraud. In fact, normally the aim of the crime is either you get a kind of a call wherein the caller threatens you. Like, for example, they'll call you and say that your debit card is going to be blocked and we need to verify the card, otherwise we'll block your card. Sometimes it is also a fake call coming and somebody pretending to be calling from a telecom company to verify your SIM, and then further SIM swapping and several other stuff happens. So they'll scare you into something, and once you get scared, you tend to kind of, as an ordinary netizen, we kind of share information which we should not have shared. Even simple information like name and address, if we share that, that also can be misused, which people don't understand, and they kind of just share that information. The other thing is they'll entice you into something very attractive. Like I mentioned about the job scams during COVID-19, which was very popular, like you earn 200 to 3,000 rupees or 5,000 rupees per day by just working from home, which was a huge hit among people and also the scamsters, because it ended up in a lot of clicks and a lot of people were defrauded. Next was the instant loan scams. Even the instant loan scams were quite common, wherein suddenly we saw a surge in the number of instant loan application where these companies were offering you a collateral-free loan. And a lot of people actually, they kind of downloaded the application. In return, what they asked was they'll disburse a loan of say up to 50,000 rupees, but all you need to do is download an application, the banking application in your phone. The moment you download that application, the application gets access to the entire phone. It's just like a remote control software which controls the entire activity of your phone, even camera, microphone, everything, no less than a spyware. So that way it's quite, and in some cases we also saw that not just financial fraud, but it also led to, in fact, trafficking of women, because the victim was unable to pay money on time, and the kind of criminals, they asked some additional favors and then later pushed that victim into trafficking. So it's also giving birth to a lot of other things through financial fraud in different channels. And as Puneet mentioned, cryptocurrencies again is something that a lot of people are planning to venture into cryptocurrency. At one point of time, Bitcoin was actually one Bitcoin was equal to 65 lakh rupees, and that attracted a lot of people who thought that I can invest. And that's when the scamsters also got active, and they said, fine, what we'll do is we'll run a campaign, we'll offer you say 1 Bitcoin if you fill up certain information. And lastly, in fact, after the Twitter takeover by Elon Musk, even there was a blue tick scam that got reported to us. Many verified,
and it has caused billions of dollars of losses, right? Because some of these impersonators, they put out messages which causes major losses to some of the companies.
Exactly. They just said that in fact, if you want to continue a blue tick, you just need to verify the details here, and they ended up losing access to their accounts, and then further stuff's happened. So these are some of the most common kind of crimes that we have been watching. And other than that, there are issues related to child sexual abuse, and again, cyber traffic, which I mentioned, which maybe later I'll kind of elaborate and share what's happening.
Sure.
There.
Let me bring in the legal perspective to understand what are the options which are available once, let's say, you have been duped. So Puneet, let me bring you in. What to do if we know we have been duped? Because we also want to understand and bring out that perspective of, the immediate next steps from a legal or law perspective. I think as per the current status, the IT Act of 2000 with the IPC is the go-to legal framework. What, in your opinion, what happens when, say, the Digital Personal Data Protection Bill of 2022 comes into effect, since it's still open for public consultations?
See, right now we do have a law in place. The major issue is underreporting, because a large number of people are not aware that they can actually take legal recourse. Now you need to understand that the first step obviously is filing a police complaint with respect to the same in the local police station. Some particular cities, they have separate cyber police stations. Some cities, they have a police station where one officer is trained with respect to cyber offenses. So it depends. Like for example, if you see Mumbai, we have the northern, western, southern. You have 4 police stations which are cyber police stations, and divided into jurisdictions where you need to approach to file your complaint. Post that, obviously, the investigation takes place. You will record your statement. There would be evidences you would have to furnish. And especially crimes against women online is something which is taken very seriously. So financial crimes, one thing that is there, yes, if it's of a small amount, you need to understand the proportion of police representation in our country vis-a-vis the crime and the population is very skewed. We do not have, like if you will see European countries, the ratio of police officers plus towards the population is a very different ratio as compared to India, where our population is really high. So there is a level of prioritization of crimes also. So if somebody, let's say, loses 500 rupees on an e-commerce portal and goes to the police station, the chances that that case will be taken up to a very great extent, despite the person having full inclination, is lesser. But yes, if a woman is stalked, if a person has lost 10, 15 lakh rupees, 25 lakh rupees, above 25 lakh rupees, most of the cyber cells in Mumbai have a directive that they have to register an FIR. They cannot refuse that either, saying that we will first inquire and investigate. So based on the gravity of the offense, there is action that is initiated. And let's say it's a small offense that's happened. So let's say you have lost a small amount of money on an intermediary platform, let's say an e-commerce platform or something of that sort. Then we have the intermediary rules of 2021 February, which can support you, where each of the intermediary platforms has to have a 3-tier grievance redressal mechanism. Which means at the first level of the nodal officer, you can officially write your complaint. Within a period of 15 days, he has to redress your complaint. If you are dissatisfied with the same, then you will go to the second tier. Then the third tier of the compliance officer. So that option is also there. So whether it may be social media intermediaries, e-commerce intermediaries, any platform which is providing a service online to you, or a platform for individuals to interact, has to provide this 3-tier grievance redressal mechanism. So that is also something which is of ease to a user. You may not have to always run to the police station. Even in stalking cases, you can even escalate it to the social media platform.
All right, we're getting some questions from the audience as well. Let me pose that to you in the context of this conversation. Vineet, attempts at phishing, they're getting very sophisticated as well, where the mail received looks exactly like, say, something a service provider would send. So the audience question is, how does the average user spot the fakes, and what they should do if they, say, suspect an email message that they received is a phishing attempt?
Well, there are different ways to identify, and one of the ways is going through the mail properly. Like any kind of phishing mail normally, in fact, and now with AI coming in, though things are becoming more and more sophisticated, but so far it has been like people kind of make grammatical errors in the mail. In fact, there are some spelling errors and all that. So that's one of the point. And the second point is the official email address. So normally if you see that there would be a link of a website or maybe the domain, and what you'll see is that there would be some spelling, maybe something would have been added on that. For example, if you want to log in on facebook.com, what Scamster does is they'll replace "o" with 00, and it will be face b00k.com, and the moment you open it, it will look exactly as a clone of facebook.com. So you need to check the URL. You need to see whether the connection has HTTPS in the beginning or not, because many of these campaigns actually just run on a HTTP URL, and it shows, the browser itself shows that this is an insecure website. Even if you have anti-malware solution, like a couple of good anti-malware solutions are there, they also identify that following link could be risky. They alert you once you open that link. So if you get those pop-ups, if you get those signs, and if you ask, and like I mentioned earlier, if they are creating some sense of urgency or emergency, then that's where you need to take a pause, take a step back, go through it properly, maybe speak to the telecom provider, speak to the bank, speak to the other organization whom you are actually interacting with on their official number, on their toll-free number, check back with them that is this a genuine mail. And if they are asking for any information, never ever send information via email, via SMS or via WhatsApp. The best, in fact, advisory is walk to the nearest branch of that particular organization and then deposit the documents in person rather than sending the documents via email, because this is considered as insecure mediums and that could be very risky for you. So these are certain kind of advisories which I'd like to give to the users.
And very valuable as well. Another question from the audience is that what if the user has already responded and fear they may be victim of an identity theft or worse? Puneet, you want to add to this as to what happens post the incident? What can folks do?
See, if an incident has happened, let's say if you have shared critical banking information. So let's say you have received a phishing email or a call and you have, by mistake, you have revealed any of your critical financial data or information. You should immediately contact the banking call center, block your credit card or debit card, or with respect to your account, set instructions that transaction should not be allowed. Or in the event, let's say you feel that your mobile phone is compromised. So there are many times when SIM swapping occurs for about half an hour, 1 hour, your mobile will not have internet connectivity, mobile connectivity, all of these things. The moment you observe this happening, you should immediately contact your service provider in order to take the next step. So do not wait for something to happen. So there are red flags that are
just an addition there, Puneet, because these are from a banking perspective, even from when we talk about the dating world and everything, that is still you going to the platform. There were scams happening whereby video calls would come to someone on, say, a messaging platform. You won't recognize the number. You open it and there is some illegal activity happening, and they threaten you by saying that since you witnessed it, we can blackmail you. What does the person do?
This is very common, which is actually called the offense of flashing. It's also happening on WhatsApp, not just dating platforms, where anonymous calls over video calls you suddenly receive on WhatsApp, and the moment you open it, there is a flashing of a private part and a screenshot of yours is taken. Now, one thing which is very important for you to do is, at this point of time, if you are a victim of such an offense, you should register a police complaint. That is my suggestion. So that tomorrow, let's say, even if you do not succumb to the first of all, do not pay. The moment you start the cycle of payment, it is not going to stop. See, if he has the image, he can still upload it anywhere he wants. So the bottom line is you paying doesn't guarantee anybody stopping to do anything. So in that situation, reporting it to the police, reporting it to the platform, these two things are very important. Do not start the cycle of giving money. And after that, let's say if you come to know that it has been uploaded on any particular platform, you have a police complaint with the receiving, you have intimated it to the platform, and thereafter you can take down that content also. So it is very important, and one thing you need to understand, people panic the moment they see such kind of content created about them. Today, whether it may be YouTube, whether it may be multiple other such video streaming platforms, there is something called deep fakes. There are so many kinds of edited content that is doing the rounds of people, sometimes nude content of celebrities, of individuals also. So there's nothing to panic. If somebody has done this with you, the first thing is to remain calm. There are so many people whose content is circulating all over the internet, and everybody knows it's fake. People are not going to judge you. The time that people would judge you for it is long gone. We have seen the bully buy cases. We have seen all of this. So people also have the common sense to understand this may not be true. So in that situation, think rationally, file a complaint for your protection so that later on, if a takedown has to be done, you can legally proceed to do the same.
All right. A quick point of view from you, Advaita. You've heard the experts speak on these topics. Just bring in the human element, and if you can, from a reassurance perspective, right? Because panic always sets in when it's new. You don't know what's going on. You don't have a framework, so to say, to refer to. You don't have a forum to go to. What would you say to that person who's encountered that?
I'm no Luddite. I believe that we have to get with the times and use modern technology. But the one question that I really want to ask, and I think that we should all ask this, is in today's interconnected world of social media, of the internet, is privacy a myth? Are we chasing this utopian ideal that does not exist? If we're online, if you have an online footprint, if you have a presence on the internet, if you have a Facebook account, you're entitled to privacy as a human right, but is it practical to expect a certain level of privacy? And I think this is the message that really has to go out to young people in particular, because, they're developing their personalities, they're having experiences, and a lot of them will have experiences that go on the internet and can destroy their lives. And we've seen that happen. We've seen someone become the editor, for example, of Teen Vogue, and something she said at 17 on a social media site led to her losing her job. So I think, along with, of course, the technical and the legal aspects of it, as a society and as a society with a predominantly young and online population, what is the message that we should be sending out?
Any response from you, Vinny? What do you think should be the message that is being sent out?
The message is we have to be resilient. Crimes will keep on happening, and it's like that same chore police ka game which will keep happening. Criminals will keep on innovating, but we have to learn the art of being resilient. And there are different platforms that are available for a victim to report. So like you mentioned, we need not panic, but we need to reach out to the right platform to report. And one of the platform is cybercrime.gov.in, which is Government of India Ministry of Home Affairs platform, where victims can report sitting at their home. For any cases, again, related to financial fraud, they can also report on 1930. Plus for all the US-based platform, we also spoke about the underreporting, and there are different issues because victims, sometimes it's a societal pressure also. In fact, with a girl child, we have seen that they feel that they'll not get married if they walk up to a police station. So there are a lot of myths around it. So all the US-based platform have something called as DMCA. It is Digital Millennium Copyright Act. And under this act, they have a DMCA form. So if tomorrow, if you feel that your photographs have gone viral without your consent, or videos have gone viral without your consent, then all you need to do is just type Facebook space DMCA form, fill up the form, and the platforms take off your content without you going to the police station. So that's one level of response. And other than that, basically we get a lot of calls where victims, like you mentioned about sextortion cases, we have got calls from senior citizens who have been a victim of sextortion. And for them, it has been, a lot of calls have been suicidal in nature. So there are a lot of internet de-addiction centers, like AIMS has one, NIMHANS has one, CyberPeace also runs one, where people land up, they call, and there's help available from all these corners. So it should not be the end of the world, but somewhere to reach and seek help. And there are different platforms available for help. Yeah.
Let's make it simple for the audience in terms of understanding what's at play and bringing in a do and don't on how to be safe on social media. So Vineet, if you can give us an overview, because there are privacy settings you can activate as a user. Give us the do's and don'ts on what a user needs to be safe on social media.
Yes, I'll start off with the privacy settings. Like all the social media platforms now have privacy security settings where you need to kind of do the right privacy settings so that all your posts and content is shared with friends only and not public. There are certain sensitive stuffs, like we often do live check-ins and all, which could be misused in different manners. There have been cases of kidnapping which has happened due to the live check-ins that people have done it. So make sure that you have a close circle, social media, and all, people. You don't add too many strangers into that circle. Those security settings should be for friends only and not for everyone. Other than that, under the security settings, you need to enable two-factor authentication so that if your account password somewhere, if it gets compromised, at least there's a second form of authentication that comes to your phone or any of the app where you need to enter that password. So platform-specific changes, security settings, and privacy settings should be enabled. On the digital devices, whether you're using say a tab or a phone or a computer, you need to make sure that the digital device is protected. It's not something that you're using an old version of operating system or an old machine which is not updated. All of them is a security flaw. You need to update all your applications, all your firmwares so that it doesn't get compromised. Your password should be more than 8-character mixture of uppercase, lowercase, special characters, so that it becomes difficult for a criminal to break those passwords. And one should kind of know the way to securely store those passwords. We should not add it, say a draft of a mobile phone, and then kind of if we lose that phone, we end up losing all our usernames, passwords, and accounts access. So certain security settings that I advise. One more thing is, when you are using a free Wi-Fi, if you are on an open network, make sure you are behind a VPN. And there have been a lot of cases where fake Wi-Fi hotspots have been set up. People got connected to the fake Wi-Fi hotspots at the airport in search of a free Wi-Fi, and also in some mobile shops, and then they ended up losing all their information, all their account details and everything. So virtual private network, we highly recommend VPN for doing any kind of transaction on a public network. And then finally, just make sure that you follow basic cyber hygiene, basic best practices that are available. It's already a lot of best practices that even through the Google initiative also, and CyberPeace is also sharing on a regular basis. So follow those basic cyber best practices, and 99% of the attacks, I feel netizens can be safe if they just follow basic cyber hygiene.
All right. Follow the basics. That's the message coming. And speaking of message, Puneet, we discussed earlier about the youth. I want you to expand on that, considering the organized and unorganized cyber criminals that we're dealing with. How can youth attendees make safer choices online? Because as we discussed, online dating platforms, they're rife for exploiting human vulnerabilities. We moved from the era of, say, cold calling options to actual social engineering to exploit insecurities that we as humans face. So your message to the youth, rather.
My message to the youth is, today the youth is completely using smartphones, devices, and always connected to the internet. The major issue with all of this that comes in is are you being monitored by your device, or is your device monitoring you? A simple thing today, a young person takes his mobile phone everywhere, whether it may be the washroom, whether it may be in your bedroom. And one of the risks that inherently comes with this is that, if you all are, most of the audience would be aware about, I will not name the brand of a smart TV, which had a camera. And it was not just the people who were watching the TV. The camera was also watching the people and recording. There have been these instances, multiple devices, multiple well-known devices that this has happened. Now, even with cell phones, there are a large number of cases. Like, there is an idea that we have, if we open email and that has an attachment which is unknown, there will be malware. However, if you're opening, let's say, any message, instant message on your phone, let's say a simple good morning message, an image, who says there wouldn't be malware in that? Who says that your phone would not have a Trojan in it which can remotely operate your camera? So as a young person, we love sending instant messages. We love receiving messages. The more the messages and videos you get in the morning, you're excited. You're popular. But understand one thing. It's not just the email that you click on. It's every single link that you click on your device, every single image that you're opening on instant messaging, every video that you're clicking and opening that is exposing your device to malware. And here the major issue comes is where your intimate moments, your life instances, secrets of your life, a lot of things can be obtained by third parties and misused. The second most important thing is, like, the first thing, obviously, please keep your device away from your real life as much as possible. So privacy is something that you decide how much you share, how much you want to share. So as a young person,
that's tough, Puneet. While that is a great piece of advice. Doing that is tough.
You need to bifurcate that. Like, your private spaces have to be your private spaces. You cannot have your device everywhere and then expect that level of privacy, because today those devices itself could be mediums of privacy invasions.
Let me quickly get Advaita to respond, and I'll come back to you, Puneet, because this is an important point, Advaita. Separate your private life from your professional life. In that sense, you are securing yourself by at least having a sort of a wall. So do you think that idea is going to become more mainstream as a user yourself?
I think it should. The seduction really with social media, if we speak of that in particular, is the validation. I mean, we're just so hungry for peer validation and validation from absolute strangers that it's become the norm. And this is especially the case on platforms like Instagram, which are more visually motivated and have a lot more younger people on there as opposed to Facebook and Twitter, for example, which are more opinion or personal interaction based. So I think it's a slippery slope, and we don't quite talk enough about it. There is the crime aspect, but there's also the mental health aspect of this. And they both kind of seem to come together. And I think you pointed out correctly, the vulnerabilities. I would say the neurosis even. I would take it a step further. The neurosis of always being connected, of always providing content, of always being validated for that content. I mean, there has to be a way around this. I mean, I would just say, if you want to take intimate photographs, take Polaroids, go back to the 80s. If you want
back to the analog world.
Absolutely. Write a diary. You don't need to share your innermost thoughts with the entire world. So I would actually say, go back a little in time.
All right. That's a great point mentioned there. I think there also needs to be a balance between what we share online, because at the end of the day, you're volunteering that information and you don't know how different types of people are going to process that information. We have different types of threat vectors. We have different types of people. In terms of the threat vectors, we have an audience question exactly to that effect, asking what's the difference between a virus, a worm, a Trojan, and a spyware. Vineet, you want to take this up?
Yeah, I'll take this up, and it's basically, I would say that it belongs to the same family, and these are all malicious kind of programs and applications trying to kind of do some kind of harm, whether to an individual or to an organization. But in terms of a virus, it's basically what it does is it modifies other program. And if you have an existing kind of a file, it would try to modify that file, it would try to corrupt the file. But I feel worm today is more dangerous because we have seen ransomware, and ransomware is kind of a worm which actually it replicates. And we must have seen, like, it may infect one computer, it may infect the entire network and may lock that network also. It may lock you out. What we heard about AIMS is a kind of a worm where the entire ransomware got deployed at all the stations. I mean, this is what I heard in the news. But then this kind of thing is happening, and today ransomware is a big threat and kind of compromising an individual also. Like your smartphone, if you're not securing properly, your smartphone can also be infected with a ransomware, and suddenly on one day you'll see a lock on your phone with a timer running on it, and then you'll be asked to pay in the form of a crypto. A Trojan horse is basically, again, a kind of an application to kind of remotely control your device, whether it is a phone or IoT devices or maybe a tablet. So once it gets deployed, it's like the creator can remotely control, do certain activities, may also target other individuals through your phone or through your digital devices and cause further harm. So, and spyware is the best example. Again, I like to give an example of Pegasus. Pegasus is a kind of a spyware again, with an aim to kind of again control your phone and also intercept the communication. Like, for example, what happened in Pegasus was all your communication, even your WhatsApp chat, your microphone, your camera was also remotely switched on. All that features were there as a part of Pegasus, and there are a lot of advanced malware which are kind of made and kind of circulated. It's also under the dark web, where you can pay, you can use spyware as a service. You can download the spyware, undetectable ones, and kind of target any individual to an organization.
Absolutely. Let me come to you, Puneet, for a question and adding some of the points that you mentioned, because as we said, there's lots of threat vectors, there's lots of types of people as well from the point of view of the scam on the internet, because they're organized and unorganized criminals. Why the need for online safety is now more important than ever? That's the first. And second, somewhere in terms of mitigation, you think the message also needs to be regionalized, because when I say visit a bank, the anti-fraud messages are all in English, is in the form of a poster, which might not be exactly compatible with, say, the next billion users who are coming out of tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 cities, who are more comfortable in their own local language?
Well, I would say it should be in Hindi. That's our national language. So instead of regionalizing everything, I would say it should be nationalized to a great extent. Considering the fact that, the number of languages, the number of complications that arise today also in the legal system, every single state has FIRs in their regional languages, which is not that easy for sometimes the dialects also. Each police station coming in a different dialect region. So in the same state, let's say there are 50 dialects, you have 50 police stations registering FIRs in 50 dialects. So I think there should be a nationalization where in Hindi, which is a national language, everybody should understand that language. It is something which is taught from school. So I would suggest education in English and in Hindi. Regional, maybe to some extent, one popular dialect, because there is no way. The moment you see a regionalism, it's not one dialect you're talking about again. A person may say, I don't understand this dialect, that dialect. I guess everybody understands Hindi. So, even banks taking that initiative of picking the national language, and even schools wanting to promote it, government through different mediums, social media, also through national television, can in regional language, let's say the main popular regional language or primarily the national language, Hindi, itself promote this education. And the second part which you asked me about, why it is increasing today, because if you would see 15, 20 years back, technology penetration was lesser in our country. So it was not that we could say the crime rate was lower. So let's say there was physical stalking happening. Today, stalking is happening online. There was physical pickpockets happening 10 years back. Today, you have wallets which are being attacked, your digital wallets. You have online banking frauds. So the crime has basically transformed to become a digital crime. And the second,
in that context, Puneet, another audience question to that effect is, what can a scammer do with my stolen personal information? What's the worst that they can do? If you can add that point to your answer.
There is a lot that can happen. So many times inadvertently, it's not just, like obviously if there is a spyware or somebody is actively stealing your information, that's another thing. But we inadvertently allow the theft of our information. Like so many times when you're discarding your old devices, whether it's your laptop or your phone, many of us do not even reformat it. I have personally come across cases where people are being, you could say, subjected to extortion based on images, information in a laptop or a device which they sold 5 years back. So we don't take the basic sanitation steps. So today, all youngsters are disposing their phones every 2-3 years. And how much of exercise are they taking? How much of the steps are they taking in such a situation to ensure that their phones are completely reformatted? The second thing about when your devices are stolen, that is also very common. Now, there are very simple mobile applications which are available, which you can download on your cell phones. They are paid, obviously not free, wherein even if your mobile phone is stolen, remotely you can wipe out the data from your device. This is exactly available. Companies do that for their employees so that company sensitive information is not lost. Even an individual can invest some amount of money so that tomorrow, let's say if your device is stolen, lost, at least you can be sure that the data is not being misused. So these are few steps that you can take. Yes, inadvertently, if in a phishing call you have revealed it or something, that's a very different situation. But a lot of stolen data, blackmailing occurs from huge amounts of active data, which, have gone out, let's say, from your devices unknowingly, where you may not have formatted your device and sold it, or again, if it's stolen and the data is actively available, putting passwords is nothing. There are password cracker tools available. So all these are easily available today. And even hackers, even people who are accessing these devices are well aware of the same. So using a password, a PIN, that is not the only solution. Use these mobile control applications or mobile device management applications available for individuals where you can remotely wipe out your data. That would be my suggestion.
All right, Advaita, to bring you in from where you stand, what are your thoughts on how can user habits be changed to ensure that at a basic level, they're operating on a secure level? Because as Puneet mentioned, you need to invest your time and money and make sure that once you operate securely, you can do what you can truly get the benefits of being digital and, being on various platforms. But at a basic level, you need to invest your time and money to understand the landscape. What are your thoughts on this?
No, absolutely. Listening to Puneet and, very wise suggestions on how to have like hygiene, internet hygiene. I think one just feels like, God, I've been lucky so far. Because there's so many of those things that even I don't follow. And and I think it's really, really important that we understand the kind of risk that exists out there and not get too carried away in the moment. I think a lot of us do that. Today, you can record a phone call on your phone. So what a privacy are we talking about? I come from the opinion that privacy is a myth and we have to be extremely careful.
All right. We have to be extremely careful. And to that effect, Vinita, I'll come to you on some of the, additional strategies for staying safe online, including, let's not forget, online gaming practices, geolocation tracking, and of course, age restriction on social media. So as we look to wrap up the conversations, if you can share your perspective on this, Vinita.
Increasingly, sorry.
Sorry, that question was for Vineet. I'll come to you, Puneet, after that.
Okay. Yes. So, in fact, just to add to what other panelists have said, I'd like to just mention that today, in fact, if you start mapping your house, on an average, you'll find 10 to 12 digital devices, from Amazon Alexas to a widespread of devices, smart TVs, smartphones, smart lights, and everything. And I suggest that any device that we take, or any kind of, if we take a smartphone, we should know this in and out. We should know the device in and out. We should know about security settings. We should know about the privacy settings, because all of these devices capture information some way or the other. And even a device like a smart digital assistant, that device also needs to be made secure by the owner. Otherwise, it will capture a lot of information. And then the routine set of habits, like I said, cyber hygiene. We have to follow cyber hygiene in whatever we do, whether it comes to browsing, whether it comes to surfing email, whether it comes to going on the matrimonial site, whatever activity we do, we need to make sure that all these security settings, privacy settings, and it's very basic. It's no rocket science. You don't need a techie to do all of that. You just need to go there, go to the accounts, go to the security settings, and just need to enable those settings. In fact, for parents, this is just one tip. I've seen a lot of parents giving phones to their children, and they are accessing cartoons and several other stuffs on the phone on certain applications. Now, one should understand that there's a difference between normal YouTube and YouTube for kids. There's a special application. A lot of applications are made that is just made for children who are under 18, so that a child doesn't get exposed to age inappropriate content. So as parents also, it is our responsibility to know about these applications, know about different kind of attacks that may happen to a child, because a child is also, in fact, we have come across a case wherein a child was into gaming, and at one point of time he had to buy certain weapons in the game. The child used the parents' credit card, debit card, and made transaction. So financial fraud happened from a child. So a child should be made aware about do's and don'ts, about safe practices of being safe online and being responsible online. And everything comes to like also induction of maybe cybersecurity as a curriculum in school, maybe including cyber morals and digital civics in the curriculum. Is the need
I think that's key. I think from an education perspective, bringing that into mainstream curriculum would also drive that conversation forward. Puneet, from a legal perspective, anything to add, additional strategies for staying safe online, considering some of the points that Puneet has brought forward?
Well, from a legal perspective, the legal perspective primarily comes into play the moment you are victimized. Prior to that, nobody really thinks about it. So it's very important that, you take the initial steps. The legal steps in the beginning itself, I had highlighted what you can do. But before you fall victim to these kind of cases, especially in the case of children, it's very important how much you want to expose them to gadgets. So the lockdown, I feel, has been a very bad phase wherein children have been exposed to so much of the internet in that particular period, which has led to, a lot of psychological damage to children, and a reassessment ideally should happen. Do they really need that much of internet exposure? How much ever you may try to control, is it really required? There have been so many cases of children being psychologically manipulated by applications. There have been cases like there has been a large number of kidnappings in Maharashtra alone, which have been linked to location tracking of children on gaming apps. So, you may not correlate that directly, but a lot of kidnappings are also linked to criminals locating children. Kidnappings are also linked to parents sharing information about their children on social media, which school they are studying, what are they doing, so many things that we are sharing. So the legal aspects definitely come once you are victimized. But, prevention is always better than cure. As a parent, even having an infant myself, I would say you don't need to make a profile for an infant on social media. It's absolutely a joke. Why do you need to do that? Why do you need to put up pictures every other day of your child and literally expose your child in the internet, which consists of even people who can have very bad intentions? Like there is a particular word called the Ren effect, wherein in the US and now also in India, sadly, parents have this craze of uploading videos of their children. Incessantly, they will go on uploading. And the Ren effect is primarily where a mother had made a note when she was uploading the videos of her young daughter, hardly a 4-5-year-old daughter, the kind of comments it was attracting, the kind of male gaze it was attracting. So you can imagine you are exposing such a young child to a very bad part of society. Is that even needed?
Absolutely.
What kind of validation
there needs to be a balance.
That's what Advaita was talking about, validation. What kind of validation is this? So I would suggest prevention is better than cure. Keep your children protected the way our parents kept us protected. They never really exposed us to random people and situations.
All right. That's a great message for the audience to consider as we wrap up this conversation. Prevention is better than cure. Stay active, stay engaged, stay empowered, and learn the landscape more. With that, it's a wrap on this special presentation titled Safer with Google in partnership with News18 Network, where we've hopefully bridged the gap between your understanding of internet security and privacy with the on-ground realities at play. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for sharing with us their insights on the topic. And of course, thank you to our viewers for tuning in and enabling a dynamic exchange of ideas with your questions. Till next time, this is your host, Gautam Srinivasan, signing off. Have a great and safe day.
Safer with Google in partnership with News18.